Hi everyone, I'm Shamsudeen. I'm a software developer, and today we're going to be going through modern authentication, OAuth2, JWT, and secure API access. Now, some websites and apps require users to create an account before granting access, while others let you dive right in without any formal sign-up process. You've likely encountered both scenarios, signing up for a service to access personalized features, or instantly browsing an app with no strings attached. These approaches might seem straightforward, but they are built on complex systems of authentication designed to balance user convenience, functionality, and security. Authentication is the gatekeeper of your application security. Whether it's ensuring users' data stays safe or enabling secure access to APIs, a robust authentication system is essential. We'll focus on three methods of authentication in this session. First, JWT, a standard for secure stateless authentication. Second, anonymous authentication, which is a method to allow users to explore your app without requiring immediate sign-up. And third, OAuth2, which is a framework that enables secure controlled access to resources on behalf of a user. Now first, JSON Web Tokens, or JWT, the core of modern authentication. Now in the rest of this session, I'm going to use JWT instead of JSON Web Token as it's shorter. Now JWT is a compact URL-safe way to represent claims or data between two parties. It is commonly used in stateless authentication, which is an approach to authentication where the server does not maintain any session information about the client between requests. A JWT consists of three parts: the header, which specifies the token type and the signing algorithm; the payload, which contains claims of the user or session; and the signature, which ensures the token integrity and authenticity. Now over here we have the anatomy of a JWT. As you can see, we have three parts encoded in different colors. The first encoded in red, which is the header. Now as I said earlier, this contains information of the algorithm and the type. As you can see here, we have the algorithm to be HS256. And then in purple, we have the payload, which is essentially the data that contains information about the user and the token. First, we have sub, which is commonly used parameter, which stands for subject. This is basically the user's ID, or an identifier for the user. Then we have the name, which is pretty self-explanatory. And then we also have something called IAT, which is the time the token was initialized. This is mentioned in milliseconds since epoch, and this is used by the server to make sure the token expires. And then finally, in blue, we have verify signature. Now this uses the algorithm stated in the header, in this case HS256, and then it encodes it along with the payload and a secret key which is predefined in the server. And this signature is then used to verify if the header and the payload has not been tampered with maliciously. So how does a JWT work? The first step is token generation. Upon successful user authentication, the server generates a JWT and signs it using a secret or private key, like I mentioned earlier. Now, as you can see in the code snippet here, which uses a JSON Web Token JavaScript SDK, on line 2, we have a line that says JWT.sign and passes a user ID, which is in the payload, passes a secret key and an expiry time. Now, the next step in this is token transmission. After generating the token is then sent to the client, often in an HTTP response or cookie. And this is securely stored in the client, for example, in secure storage on mobile. And next, finally, we have token verification. Now, for every request that the client makes back to the server, it sends the token back in the API request. Most of the time, it does this in the headers. And the server then decodes the token and verifies its signature and the expiry date. If it's expired, if the token is expired, then the server renews and refreshes the token and sends a new one back to the client. If the signature is invalid, it means the payload has been tampered with. Then the server then asks the client to authenticate again. Although this highly depends on the app and how the server is currently implemented. Now we can see here another JavaScript code snippet that uses the JSON Web Token package. Calls JWT.verify, passes the token and the secret key. So in essence, JWT's self-contained nature makes it ideal for stateless systems. And the server doesn't have to hold session data, which improves scalability. Next, we have anonymous authentication. Now, anonymous authentication provides temporary access to an app without requiring the user to sign in. And this is widely used for onboarding, for guest access, and for trial features. Now, how does this work? Under the hood, anonymous authentication uses a token, and this token can either be in form of a JWT or a session token, any other thing. For example, when using Firebase creates a unique identifier, a UID, and issues a token to that UID for an anonymous user. And now then this token is then passed by the client for every request they make to the backend, and this allows the backend access, and this allows the client's access features permitted for anonymous users. Now, if the user then decides to register or log in, the temporary session is linked to their account, and the backend uses the ID for any transfer associated data. Now, for example, you can see here we have a code snippet. On line 2, we have the Firebase auth.instance.sign anonymously, which is a function that is provided by the Firebase SDK. And on line 6 and 7, in the event that the anonymous user then proceeds to register, we have a function that allows us create email credentials with the username and password, and then link those credentials to the user, passing the user ID that was created in line 2. Now, under the hood, most times anonymous authentication would rely on JWT, and this is because JWT at this time is the core of modern authentication. Finally, we have OAuth2. OAuth2 is a protocol for delegated access, enabling third-party apps to access user resources without exposing credentials. For example, on a website where you have signing with Google, the website has no information of your Google account and your password. However, you are able to still sign in with your Google account and see your name and your data on that website as it is set up on your Google account. That is OAuth2 in action. Now, the OAuth2 workflow is as follows. The first is the user authorization. The app redirects the user to an authorization server where they log in and grant permissions. Now, this is, for example, when you click sign in with Google, you are redirected to a new tab or a pop-up that asks you to sign in with your Google account. Now, if you notice, this URL is always something like accounts.google.com. And then once you grant permission, we'll move on to the next step, which is authorization code exchange. Now, the authorization server, in this case Google, issues an authorization code, which the app then exchanges for an access token. And then finally, resource access. The app can then use that access token that was gotten in step 2 to call APIs on behalf of the user. For example, after signing with Google, you can call APIs if the app allows you to do things like post on your Google Plus when Google Plus was active. Now, these steps and these workflows are usually done by making secure HTTP requests. And as you can see on line 1, we get the access code. This is a fictitious OAuth provider. And then on line 4, we exchange the access code for a token. Now, in Flutter, you can use packages like Flutter App Auth to integrate OAuth2 for sign-in flows. And you can use things like Clerk or Passport on web. Now, security best practices. When it comes to JWT, you should always make sure you use HTTPS for secure token transmission. You should set short-lived expiration times and implement refresh tokens. Short-lived expiration time so that tokens don't live for too long and cannot be exploited by hackers. And implement refresh tokens so that the user doesn't always have to log in anytime a token expires. And you should also store tokens securely, for example, in Flutter Secure Storage in the case of Flutter. For anonymous authentication, you should restrict the actions anonymous users can perform. Now, this greatly depends on the type of app you're building, but in general, anonymous users do not need to have access to the whole app. And next, we should set session expiration to prevent abuse. Most times, the actions you take in securing JWT should also be taken in anonymous authentication because it uses JWT under the hood. And then finally, when it comes to OAuth2, we should keep client secrets secure and use a proof key for code exchange for public clients like mobile app. Now, a real life scenario. The Tando app. Tando is an app that lets you process M-Pesa transactions in Bitcoin. And in other words, you can send money to anyone in Kenya using Bitcoin, while the receiver would get Kenyan shillings. As you would expect, it is classified as a Web3 app, meaning it's decentralized and doesn't require your data to create an account, your name, your address, your email. And now Tando also takes this a step further, as we don't even require to connect your wallet. It is a utility app. Now, our app had no authentication, and as such, the initial build of our API had no authentication check. But it didn't take long before a malicious hacker tried spamming us. They were able to make requests to our API endpoints and started racking up our credit usage for third-party APIs that we use. Now, the solution to this was implementing anonymous authentication. And this was a simple yet powerful step we took in securing our API. And after doing that, we made sure to reject requests from clients that did not have a valid token, thereby fixing the issue of the malicious spam. Now, in conclusion, JWT is the backbone of stateless authentication, enabling secure and scalable systems. Anonymous authentication provides seamless onboarding with minimal friction, often powered by JWT. And OAuth2 is a simplified and secure way to give delegated access to third-party resources. Any questions you have, you can tweet me at X or Twitter at Shamsad, or send me an email. My email is here. Thank you.